because of the way I was taught and everything, for me to sit down with two wrestlers and map out an entire match just made no sense. I said, I can't do that. I can't do that because I never did it. In other words, the real art form of what we did was improv. It's like, oh yeah, I know the finish. I know exactly how it's going to end. That's a setup for the next show. And if I have a little history with you, in other words, if we'd already had a couple matches, we might go, okay, based on what the people saw last time, maybe we should start this way tonight. But all that stuff in the middle of the start and the finish was organic.
But how about with Randy at WrestleMania 4?
That's what I was going to ask.
Because Randy always was notorious for having a blueprint. Did he have a blue? I got this great match here, right here, Ted.
Right. That's the first time I ever did that, and I told Randy too, and it was funny because Elizabeth was sitting there. I said, Randy, I said, listen, I said, I understand what you want to do, and I said, that's fine. I said, but give me this leeway as we're doing this. If something comes to me as we're on this track, let me call it, and we're going to come right back to this. Can you do that? You know, he just kind of looked up at Elizabeth and said, Randy, you can do that. And he said, okay, brother, we can do it. And so we went out and tore the house down.
Wow. And
but basically stuck to the game plan. But I just threw in a couple of things that weren't planned.
Nice.
So, Mike, you've just come off the working with them. Can you guys weigh in? Got a lot of pro wrestling experts out there that are always defending the wrestlers, saying, while we're on break, everybody, Farrell was talking to Ted about superstar Billy Graham, who seems to be still, we discussed last week, still angry over losing to Bob Backlund in 1978. I don't know why, but anyway. And a lot of these experts still talk about how unfairly wrestlers are being treated, that they're really not independent contractors. And then the most recent occurrence of the WWE saying, hey, look, you cannot use your name as use third-party social media to generate revenue for yourself, your wrestling name or whatever contract you signed for. Do you guys want to weigh in on both those subjects?
Well, first of all, I don't know anything about what Billy Graham said and don't care. Secondly,
fair enough.
You know, the wrestling business is what it is, and if you agree to get in it, there's going to be rules, whether I'm saying it's right or wrong. There's going to be rules for any company you work for. So unless things change, you have to deal with that, you know. And I know that some of these guys and girls are making a lot more money than I made in the wrestling business, so I wouldn't be too unhappy about it, you know. I would kind of work around it and deal with it because, like I said, I mean, go try to find another job somewhere. It's not that easy to make the kind of money you can make working for a WWE, you know. And unfortunately, is it perfect? Probably not, but, you know, you're going to deal with that kind of thing in anything. There's going to be upsides and downsides, so I'm not going to jump on the mass wagon and try to bury it, you know. Especially I have two of my kids work there, you know, so.
Sure.
And I'm glad that they're able to be there at this time, so.
Well, and you know, it's kind of like they're not the only game in town anymore. There is some competition now, and I've always said competition is good for business. Competition ultimately is good for the talent because there is some, you know, competition is always good for anybody because it's kind of like, you know, like when my kids were playing soccer, I knew some parents that wanted to put their kids on a team where their child could be the star. I wanted to put my kid on a team that was good to where there was some people that were better than them out there, so that would make them better.
Make them better.
That was the whole thing. Competition's always good for business.
Right.
But still, the WWE is still the biggest game in town, and you know, whether you went to work for one company or another company, they are going to have their rules, and you know, it's kind of like the Million Dollar Man. The Million Dollar Man character is a property of the WWE. Now, I do have an agreement with them. From years ago, I asked for permission to use the character as it pertained to and in pursuit of my ministry. In other words, can I ask these churches to, advertise me as the WWF $1 Million Man? And so they wrote off on that. So anything, that's why.
So Vince didn't give you didn't give you an issue with that at all?
Not on that, no. And so that's why I can have a $1 Million Man, website, because I use that for wrestling, but I also use that to advertise where I'm going to be speaking and things like that. So it's not like you can't, and again, I would rather be in a position where I'm working with the company as opposed to butting heads with them, because Mike and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if it hadn't been for Vince McMahon and what he did for the wrestling industry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We go head to head constantly with people who absolutely hate Vince McMahon. So I have to ask you guys while I have you here. And they hate Vince McMahon, a lot of them, because they feel that the old timers, quote unquote, the guys from the past, are not taken care of by Vince currently, that there should be pensions, there should be medical benefits, and all these other things that are obviously sensitive issues. Do you guys feel Vince owes the old timers a living?
Well, in my opinion, that would be nice to have something like that.
Fair enough.
But in the real world, not everything is perfect, like I said,
Absolutely.
and at some point you just got to move on and find happiness within yourself. I actually was out of the wrestling business for 3 years, and I ran a car lot for my father-in-law. My wife and him got in a fight, and then I was no longer at the car lot. They got in an argument, which they regrouped later, but I called up John Laurinaitis and Jerry Briscoe, and I went back to work for Vince, as a producer. And it worked out. I got a good run out of it,
Sure.
a 13-year run. So I can't complain, and complaining does no good anyways, and I just turned 63 years old. I could have worked a couple more years as a producer and retired at 65, but I made it this far and decided, they let me go, and I said, there's not a problem with that. I've had enough.
Been a good run.
Yeah, it's been a good run. And 23 more years on top of it, wrestling over the years. So, I can't complain.
We got about 15 minutes left. Fan out there, Nate, is asking, do you have any Rick Rude stories?
Rick Rude.
not really.
Nothing?
There
All
you
right,
go.
how about who from the current WWE roster would be the new Money Inc.?
What?
I don't even know how to answer that one.
I don't even know if they are. Do you guys even watch the product nowadays? Because a lot of guys don't.
I'll be honest, I don't.
Yeah, I figured that.
I mean, I'm busy doing other
Right.
things.
The answer is Monty and the Pharaoh. That's the new Money.
So
Inc.
sorry, Nate.
And by the way, I'm broke, so donate now.
Ask both
Thank
of your
you.
questions, and sorry, the gentleman had nothing. So, performance-enhancing drugs, HGH, steroids, right? Prevalent in all of sports. My viewpoint is that it has many values to it. That's just my viewpoint. Did you guys partake in using either one of those in your career?
Look at me. Do I look like I've ever been on steroids?
There you go. There you go.
I don't know, man. You're a big guy.
Oh, what a warrior bicycle pump veins? No.
Again, I don't know. Mike, you? Nothing?
No, and when I first was starting Jack Briscoe, I was training hard with Ricky Steamboat and in the Carolinas, and Jack Briscoe goes, and also the Briscoe brothers were in the Carolinas when I was there the first time. Jack goes, "Don't you ever get on that shit." He goes, "You're a wrestler." He goes, "You don't need that shit. You don't want to look like a musclehead. You want to look like a wrestler, because that's what you are." And I never did.
Wow.
And basically, I was told the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Never get on it.
I never thought either one of you messed around with that stuff. You look like wrestlers to me. So, can you guys speak a little bit about the great Andre the Giant? We always love to ask Andre stories. Any stories for us about
gosh,
Andre?
Man, I loved Andre. I mean, and of course, I guess in the business we call it the rub. Like when like a lot of guys are established stars. Yeah, when you got a new guy coming in that you want to push real hard, or you say, oh man, we can make this guy a star. You put him with somebody that can help elevate their stature.
Sure.
Well, I think that's what Vince did with the $1 Million Man character. That whole deal. I mean, it's like the storyline at that event. Back in '88. The match was Andre and Hulk, but the story was me.
Yeah.
And so post that and post WrestleMania 4, for almost the next year, I had a lot of tag team matches, with Andre against Hulk and Savage, or Hulk and whoever. And so that relationship helped elevate me. But Andre was just a great guy. My funniest Andre story is, and people, and HBO did a pretty good job.
Great documentary.
Of letting the people know just how hard life was for this guy. I mean, here's a guy that can't get comfortable anywhere. I mean, we had to ride in conversion vans or limousines because he was too big for anything else. You put him in a first-class seat on an airplane, he can sit there, but he's not comfortable. So we go to Japan, 14 hours, boom. On the bus, the hotel, and we're going to meet in the lobby and then go out and eat. And so everybody goes to the room, freshes up. I go out, I hit the button, the door opens, and there's Andre. Hey, boss, let's go eat. So we start down. The elevator stops like on every floor. And these little Japanese people get on. Now, 2 stops ago, you and I would have said, this elevator's full, get the next one. Not in Japan. In Japan, they're used to packing them in because the whole country is the size of the state of California. 3/4 of that landmass is uninhabitable mountains.
Right.
So you got 1/4 of the state of California with a population of half that of the United States. That is stacking them up. But, they just keep getting on. Andre reaches over and gives me the little tap, and I looked up at him and he winks.
Oh, no.
So the next thing you hear, and I to this day, I remember I kept thinking, I know he's the Giant, but how could any human possibly have that much air in their body? It was the loudest, longest fart I've ever heard. I mean, and the poor little Jap guy that's standing directly behind him is getting it right in the face.
Oh my God.
And but when the door opened, it was like the Exodus. They were falling over each other trying to get out the door. I mean, they all got off except me and Andre.
Wait, you didn't run out either? I figured the smell of pea soup.
As the door closes, all you could hear was, oh, 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 oh. He looks at me and he goes, they won't crowd the big man anymore, will they?
That's great.
I love that. My favorite
I've
story.
heard that sound magnified on a steel chair with Andre sitting there naked, not naked, but with no shorts on because he was changing his tights and a towel over.
Wop, 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 wop.
And the whole dressing room. Oh my God. It smelled like a horse farted. I mean, like you said, the amount of air in the body. Oh my God!
Not to be serious, but did it depress Andre? His size and his limitations for a man who
I don't
always
think
has
it depressed him, but he was in pain as he got older.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was difficult.
He lived in a lot of pain, and Andre hated drugs.
Okay.
He just hated, and so Andre, I mean, I don't think he ever took any. I mean, his painkiller was wine, basically.
Okay.
And
he seemed to like beer.
Yeah, he did both.
Yeah.
The first time I met Andre, I'm at West Texas State playing football in college, and this is now Terry Funk and Dory Funk Jr. That's their dad's territory. They've inherited the territory. Dory's senior is passed away, and so Andre's coming to town, and he's going to be in the territory for a week. Big deal. But they're going to be gone that night, the Thursday night that Amarillo ran. And so they asked me, they said, can you take Andre out for us after the show? And I said, I'd be happy to. So I took him out, and that's when first time I met him. And I took him out to one of the clubs that, all the college guys went to, and a place where you could eat and drink. And so the girl comes up to the table to take the order. And I said, I have a beer. And she looks at Andre, and he goes, do you have trash can? She says, yeah, we got several. She says, big trash can. She says, oh, yeah. She says, empty trash can, 5 cases of beer on ice at my table.
5 cases.
5 cases.
What does he get for an appetizer?
I looked at her, she looked at me, and I went,
you better do it.
she's a giant.
This guy fought
but you
like
gotta
a
understand.
heavyweight. You better do it.
When if you looked at a beer can in Andre's hand, you almost couldn't see it.
Like a thimble, right?
Yeah, it was like a miniature.
It's crazy.
So his ability to consume is, it's like there's a lot of spots in that year I was with him that I don't remember well.
And you can also fill up a wash tub. Just think of how, those galvanized wash tubs, how many bottles of wine you can fit in there.
Oh my God.
And then put ice on it.
Yeah.
Now, were you guys ever worried that he didn't like you? Because you hear these stories how if he didn't like you, you were in some. You were.
I met him the first show I ever went to up in Canada, and just met him. But when a couple years later, I was working in Florida. When he came to Florida, Barry and I would pick him up at the airport or take him on the towns with us. And he'd come down for a week. And Barry had a big old school Ford Bronco, the big ones. And Andre'd sit in the front. Here's Barry's head. There's Andre. and we'd have the back full with wash tubs of wine and cases of beer and a stack of calzones about that big that we bought.
The calzones for sound effects later on after Andre.
So
and metal chairs.
Who puts Money Inc. together?
Oh.